to
No, that's
join, and then you can.
I'll try and just mute.
Yep, just a reminder for everyone to mute so that Anne can do her conversation. Yeah,
All
thank you.
good. All good. Thank you. Kia ora, tēnā koutou katoa. It's lovely to see so many of you here and enthused and excited about submitting a proposal for LIANZA 2025. So I'm actually on this year's committee, which I'm very pleased about and very excited about. And I think there are some other conference committee members here. So if you have any specific questions about the conference, we'll do our best to respond to those as well as any questions about writing a proposal, etc. Just on the issue of questions, I am happy to answer questions as we go along, but you may just want to keep them to the end because of this issue of muting and unmuting. It gets a bit confusing. So I'm going to give an overview of, writing the abstract and submitting to the conference. And then we have Kira, Brent, and Maya, who will give their experiences, and then we will have some questions. I think that's probably the best way to go about it. Okay, so first of all, this is what we're going to be covering. So talking a bit about the conference, how you respond to a call for proposals, preparing your proposals, and then, as I say, we have our three guests or our three presenters talking about their experiences as well. I suppose we could start with saying, please do submit a proposal. We're really excited to hear about the kind of work that you've been doing in your own workplaces. And of course, presenting at a conference can be a really great way of getting some professional development, some professional experience, sharing your ideas, and also becoming a bit enthused, more enthused, re-enthused maybe about your own work. You hear about new developments, you share new developments, and you find out what others are doing. It's an opportunity to contribute to conversations around our profession here in Aotearoa. So it's a really great opportunity to network and learn about effective practice from across the sector and get some feedback on your own work and your own ideas as well. Comparing your own practice with those of others is always useful, and it can make us perhaps question why we do things the way that we do, and are there more effective ways of doing what we're doing. So opening up our eyes to alternatives as well. So I would urge you to, even if you're a little bit worried about presenting, please do consider putting in a proposal. So let's talk a bit about that. As I say, great opportunity to share your experiences and learn and network. But of course, we have to have our proposal accepted first. So I'm sure you've all looked at the website, but just a reminder that there's lots and lots of information on the website. And as you can see at the bottom there, additional information under those 4 buttons. And as I say, probably the main motivation of today's webinar is to encourage you to put in a proposal for the 2025 conference. And we will be focusing specifically on that process. But, many of the points that I'll be raising or talking about, you can perhaps use for other conferences as well. So it's a wider learning opportunity than just for LIANZA. Okay, so I think first of all, we want to read the call for proposals carefully. Whenever we're preparing a proposal, you need to make sure that you are fitting within the themes and doing all the processes that you need to submit your proposal. And if we look at this part of the website, this is where the information about submitting your proposal is, and at the bottom there, you can see that there's all that additional information. So please go in and read that, because it will give you a much better chance of your proposal being accepted. So I'm going to go through these first few slides relatively quickly, because I think, all the information is there on the website for you to read in your own time and become familiar with. But this is our theme for this year, sustaining and changing. So an emphasis on sustainability and changing, but also the idea that maintaining as well. So sustaining, changing, and perhaps maintaining, that in the face of all these changes that we're going through as a profession and in the wider environment, we remain we remain true to some of our core values. So how do we do that within this, very dynamic environment we're working in at the moment? So how do we embrace change while still ensuring that we're meeting our stakeholders, our customers, our patrons' needs and expectations? So one of the links at the bottom of the page was this threads link. So here are the different threads. So again, think about how your idea, or the idea you have for your proposal, will fit into one of these, and it's important that you can do that if possible. But notice there is this catch-all at the bottom. If your proposal doesn't fit clearly, please send it in. We still want to hear from you. So so we're saying here that we will still consider your proposal, your paper, whatever your presentation, even if it doesn't quite fit into one or more of these themes. So we are a little bit flexible in that. So please, don't let that put you off. If you've got a great idea, please let us know. Here are the formats of the presentations this year. Most of them are familiar, I think. So the lightning talk is a good way of, dipping your toe in the water. If you haven't presented at a conference before. So it's just 10 minutes, but that's to include questions and answers. So you don't want to go right up to the 10-minute mark. And for a lightning talk, you want to really focus on the key messages you want to get across. Yeah. So not so much of the detail, but the key messages, the key ideas. So that's the lightning talk. The paper is the more conventional presentation that perhaps we're used to, 30 minutes, including questions and answers. So make sure you leave time for questions and answers again. And here you're presenting your ideas, your project, and you can go into a bit more detail here. The panel is more of a structured discussion, usually involving 3 or 4 people plus a facilitator to guide the discussion and the conversation, maybe ask questions around the topic. Yeah. So if you're putting in a proposal for a panel, you need to have all your speakers lined up like the ducks, and make a case for why they're the best people to talk about this topic. A workshop is more interactive. Yep. So here you're thinking about maybe a discussion with some questions, some activities. So again, it's a guided discussion, really. So perhaps some hands-on learning, for example. So the focus here is on active participation rather than just sitting and listening. And new this year, we've got the Correro, which is, as it says there, it describes it very well, a less formal opportunity for people to come together to discuss an area of interest. And there is a proposer who facilitates the discussion, but you don't need additional people like for the panel, for example. So it's just getting people together and having a bit of a chat, really, about a topic. So it could be something that's exercising you in your workplace. How do you approach this? What should I do about this? It could be presenting an idea that you've got and getting feedback on it. So lots of opportunities there. Yeah, to get together with your colleagues and share experiences and hopefully get some inspiration as well. Okay, so let's have a look. Next aspect is really meeting the specifications of the call for proposals. So again, on the website, lots of information about the proposal submission process. So there is a separate portal, and once you enter the portal, you will have to set up a new account. So even if you submitted to last time's conference, you will need to re-sign up, yeah? So re-register for the portal, and then you can enter the portal as often as you need to, and you're taken through the steps of putting in your proposal and some specifications there, as you can see. So you download a template. It's a Word template. Download the template. Tells you some conventions about the file name and Arial font size 11, 150 words, and please don't include any author details, okay, because the reviewing system is double blind reviewing, which means that the reviewers won't know who you are and you won't know who the reviewers are. So everything is kept anonymous. So please don't include any details on your proposal. Okay, so that's the first page of the portal. As you can see, you've got to put in your email and sign up. And as you in the middle there, you can see proposal template, and that's where you can download the Word document to fill in. Yep. It takes you through to this, and you go through the process, and then you upload. Yeah, so just browse your computer and upload the file to the portal. And this is the template, so quite straightforward, quite simple. Your title, 10 words max, and the full abstract's 150 words max. So note that we've just got the one template for all the different types of submissions. Yeah. And it says 150 words max, so that's maximum. So don't feel that you have to fill it up if you've said what you need to do. You don't have to go up to 150 words. But on the other hand, the more you explain your ideas, the better idea of what you're trying to do. You'll get that over to the reviewers much more clearly. All right. Yes, meet the deadlines. That's the next important thing. We need to get these proposals in by a certain date, of course, and the date is April the 11th. Okay, so you've got about 3.5 weeks. I think that's about right. I think that's a Friday. Yep, that's a Friday. So yeah, you've got a little bit of time to start thinking about your proposal and start writing it. You can draft it, by the way, on the website. You can go in and edit it and come out and think about it a bit more and then go back in and, adjust it. So until you hit that submit button, it's in draft. All right, let's have a look at preparing the proposal then. So ultimately, your proposal will determine whether your paper, your presentation is accepted or not, whether you're going to be accepted to speak at the conference and attend the conference. So it's really important that you submit a clear, a concise, and an interesting proposal as well. So let's have a think about titles to begin with. This is me. I'm a bit of a fan of a little bit of a quirky or eye-catching title, followed by a colon, and then actually a description about what the paper is about. A more sensible title, really, that describes the content a bit more clearly. So I've just given you some examples of papers here. I don't think all of these are conference papers. And what you will notice is that they are all more than 10 words, which, as I've said, for LIANZA, it needs to be 10 words. So I'm going to struggle a bit with that one, I think. Yeah, I think some tips for titles. You want it to be, you want it to introduce the topic. So even though I said it's great to have a little fun title, an eye-catching title, yeah, it has to describe what the presentation is about. It should capture the interest of the reader, though, and I think that's stressed on the proposal template. Try to engage the interest of the reader. It should be relatively brief anyway, and for LIANZA it has to be maximum of 10 words, and it should aid discoverability. Yeah, so people should be able to, I suppose that we're thinking about afterwards, if somebody's interested in the area, if they Google, yeah, or search for something, it'll come up, your paper will come up. So it has to have those key words that will make it easily discoverable as well. What about the proposals themselves then? So overall, your proposal is, as it says there, a brief, accurate description of the content of your presentation. It should provide a very clear, accurate description of or picture of what the presentation is going to cover. And I like to think of it as a bit of a sales tool, and you've got two groups of people that you're selling it to here. So first of all, you're selling it to the reviewers. Yeah, you are trying to catch their attention and encourage them to accept your proposal. And the second group of people is, of course, the conference attendees, yeah, the participants. You want them to come to your presentation. You don't want to be there presenting to yourself. Yeah. So again, at a conference, there are multiple different sessions going on at the same time at LIANZA, and there will be at LIANZA 2025. So you want to encourage people to come to your presentation. So how do we do that? How do we entice them in and encourage them to come and watch us, I suppose. So you do need to describe accurately, but also enticingly, what they can expect from your session. So well-written proposals clearly identify the purpose of what the session is about, and whether that's a presentation of some work you've done, or it is a panel, or it is a workshop. That needs to be very clear. It needs to be concise, because we've only got 150 words. It needs to be well organized, and it needs to be quite specific as well. I think with only 150 words, you really need to grab the both the audience and the reviewers' attention from the beginning, and perhaps the most important information first. The thing that you think is really important about your work or your presentation, the key idea that you're trying to get across, put that first. Yeah. The other thing I should say is to write in plain English, in clear English. You don't need to be overly academic here. You've only got 150 words, and trying to wax lyrical takes up a lot of words. So write in plain, clear English. Explain any acronyms, or if there's any jargon or technical language. You may need to define those terms within the proposal. I think, you know, the conference committee, the reviewers are not looking to see that you can write really cleverly or really academically, or that you, as I say, can wax lyrical about a topic. They're looking for evidence that you can organize your thoughts well and present an effective and clear presentation, and hopefully an entertaining presentation as well, that's going to engage the audience. So write clearly and accessibly. As I say, outline your topic from the beginning. Why is it important? Is it important for a particular group or a particular type of library? Explain your ideas. Perhaps give a little bit of background, but not too much. Yeah, you don't want to go into the detail in your proposal. Tell them about why people should be interested. And probably you should finish with that. Yeah. So conclude with why people would be interested in coming to your presentation. I suppose what we should say is that, you know, the reviewers, they're going to be reading a lot of these proposals. So you want to grab their attention from the beginning. And, you know, if they have to search for your meaning or try to understand what you're getting at, you're more likely to be rejected there. So I think the most important aspect is really, what will your audience be getting from your presentation? You know, they've got the opportunity to go to lots of different sessions. Why should they come to yours? Yeah. The other thing I've put there at the very bottom is link to the theme of the conference. Clearly, we keep stressing that, but have a look at the call for proposals, have a look at the language that that is using, and try to get some of that into your proposal. Yeah, so the reviewers can see quite clearly the links to the conference and the conference theme. Yeah, I think that's probably enough on that one. So here's what the evaluators are going to be looking at, the reviewers are going to be looking at. What are the issues? How do they relate to the conference theme? Is it new information? And what are those key messages? Yeah. And again, really emphasizing the importance of aligning with the theme and what its contribution is. Talking about reviewers, you can sign up to be a reviewer. Please sign up to be a reviewer. You can, this is a good way of getting some experience. You can submit and be a reviewer. The reviewer form, so there is say, join us as a proposal reviewer. On there is a line about conflicts of interest. You can put in there, if you want to, that you have submitted a proposal. But generally, you know, we are looking for more reviewers, and it's a really good way of getting experience. And yeah, just contributing to the conference in other ways. So yeah, we'd love you to join us as a reviewer. Just some final tips here. Now, I have said to look over previous examples of abstracts and proposals. Last time's LIANZA's proposals are not available, but the program is still available. So you can go and have a look at that, and have a look at some of the titles, for example. That might give you some inspiration and some ideas about how to title your proposal. And I think if you do a little bit of searching around on the web, you will find examples of abstracts and proposals that you can perhaps draw from and get an idea about how you should structure and what you should include in your proposal. It's a good idea to ask somebody to read over your submission. You know, is it clear to them? Maybe ask a couple of people. Is it clear? What do they think? Can it be improved? What would encourage them to go and see your presentation? Proofread it carefully, of course. Check for style and grammar and, of course, spelling. Yeah. Stay within the word limit. And of course, submit on time. Okay, I think I'm going to leave it there. So I'm going to hand over now to my colleagues. And we've got Kira, Maya, and Brent, who can hopefully give us their experiences.
Kia ora tātou. Ko Kira, hopefully toka ingoa. I'm the librarian at Waipihu College in Levin. So my most recent LIANZA presentation was initiatives to engage staff with the school library collection. And I think for me, why I wanted to present, there's kind of two reasons. One is to kind of get school libraries out there amongst the rest of the library sector. We do kind of stick together, but it's nice to actually share and show everyone what we're doing. But then also the other side of it is being accepted to present was another way of kind of guaranteeing that I would get to go. So saying, oh, look, I'd like to go to the conference and I will be presenting. And in the past, it was if you presented, the registration also was covered. I think that's not the case anymore though. But yeah, it was kind of two reasons. I would get to go and I would get to share more about school libraries. In the past, I worked at academic libraries and public libraries, so it's also a chance for me to like reconnect with past colleagues and see what everyone is still doing and learn from other sectors and see if I can apply those in the school. I think, Anne, you covered it really well, how to write the proposals, so hopefully I don't repeat too much, but I can throw in some examples from when I was doing my submission. So I'd say start off by describing the issue or the problem that your idea addresses. So in my case, it was staff, they read for pleasure, definitely. They're really busy and they weren't getting their books from the school library. So that was kind of like a, why not? You're here 8 hours a day. How come they're not coming and getting their books from me? And the second part is how you respond to the opportunity. So in this part, I would say briefly, just give a teaser of your main presentation, enough to kind of hook people in, but not give everything away. So insights, any tools or initiatives that you come up with, details of your process and challenges and things that went wrong for you. It's always interesting about things that hearing about things that didn't work as well as things that do work. And then kind of touching on the end result of your project. So for example, for me, I said I introduced competitive and engaging initiatives such as a pop-up library and reading challenges, which encourage community engagement. So that's the part where I've linked it to one of the conference themes. And if you can kind of work it in to a sentence rather than this links to this theme, I think that's helpful too. As Anne said, it's really important for someone to know what they're going to get out of watching your presentation as against going to something else. And it is often really hard to make up your mind about which one you want to attend. So if you can clearly state basically to the reader, this is why you should come and listen to me, then that's a nice way to kind of sum up your abstract. For me, I'm quite a practical person, so I'd like to go to a presentation and then take away some ideas that I can implement, or a new tool or a new strategy that I can put in place in my library. And that's what I also like to give when I'm doing a presentation. So you could also say that it applies to other types of libraries beyond your own. So mine obviously is for a school library, but it could apply to any group where you have a bunch of staff members and you know they read and you want to connect on that topic. And yes, the title, thinking of a catchy title that will stand out from the rest is always a good one as well. Another thing to think about is which type of presentation you're going to choose. Initially, I've always gone for thinking of lightning talks, and my first one ever, I was just going to do a lightning talk, and my boss at the time was like, no, you should do a paper. You know, you have enough information for 30 minutes, and that's going to include questions as well. So your presentation actually might only be about 20 minutes if you're thinking of the questions that will come after it. And if you are doing a paper, definitely don't make your presentation 30 minutes long, because then you miss out on that question and answer time. It is quite a long time, so I would say for a paper, include some engaging content like video if you have it, really good slides with good images, and even like an interactive element that the audience can take part in. The lightning talks, they are short, 10 minutes, but you can actually pack a lot in. So the one that I've been talking about to engage staff, that was a lightning talk. And it's also nice because in your session, there'll be 2 other lightning talks, I think, usually at the same time. So you'll be in amongst a bunch of people with different topics. I like the sound of the new format, the kōrero. That sounds really cool. And I've only just now thought of an idea that would work really well. It's a topic that I'm interested in, but I don't have a lot of information or experience on yet. That would be nice to kind of pull people together and just have a discussion. And workshops, I feel like conferences are often quite paper heavy. If you have a workshop, maybe please do submit an idea for that, because it's nice to go along and actually do something rather than listening to people for 2 whole days. Yeah, so if you have any reservations, like, oh, I'm not good at public speaking, or I'll be too nervous, I mean, those are real thoughts and real considerations. So make sure you do practice a lot. And even at the time, the nerves will kick in at the beginning, but from my experience, after maybe a minute, you kind of relax into it. And everyone's so friendly and they'll just be sitting there smiling at you anyway. So don't stress if you are worried about the actual presenting bit. And I found when I have presented, I always get some nice feedback. People will come up to you afterwards. You get to meet new people and have conversations that you probably wouldn't have ever had if you didn't do it. It's also, it's good for advocacy and PD. You can add it to your LinkedIn profile afterwards that you've presented. And it's just a nice thing to add and kind of keep you motivated. So yes, I definitely encourage you, if you're on the fence, just go for it, and you never know. So thank you. Thanks for having me. Hopefully I'll see you at LIANZA.
Kia ora. Thanks, Kira. Actually, Kira just raised a really important point there, was that you may want to save, the real juicy bits of your presentation for the actual presentation. So Kira talked about it, giving a little bit of a teaser. I think that's a really good idea. Outline what you will be talking about, but perhaps not what you will actually say. I think that's a really good advice there. So Maya, do you want to chip in?
Sure. Kia ora koutou, Maya toku ingoa. I teach and research in the Information Studies program together with Anne. And at the last LIANZA conference, I presented the topic on tattoos and information behavior. So that was a topic that's super interesting to everybody I talked to, but my challenge was how to make it actually relevant to people who are attending the conference. So my takeaway from there is to consider what is your motivation when you are presenting something, but also how to make it useful for the audience. And this might be something you want to raise in your proposal if your topic is a little bit outside the boundaries of the conference theme. I will just say a few things about writing proposals, but I will also tie it to presenting because very often it comes together in your mind. So when you are preparing your presentation, it's also a good thing to keep in mind key takeaways for your audience. So my last slide might be particular advice that you want to give to people or actions that they might take and use in their own work practice. One thought that I had that builds on what Kira and Anne were saying, when you are choosing the proposal type or the type of presentation you want to present, keep in mind that sometimes lightning talks are harder to do, at least from my experience, than full presentations because you have less time, which means you need to be very motivating and energetic and just focus on one or two key points. So when you are thinking about what is the key message you want to give to your audience, think about what style would be actually the best, the most suitable, rather than are you more comfortable speaking for 10 or 20 minutes. So reverse that way of thinking a little bit. It is also, I think, important, especially if you are presenting something you've been working on for years or long and complicated projects, to decide on the focus. What exactly is it that you want to talk about and why is it that you want to talk about it? And as Anne said, try to think about it from the perspective of somebody who does not know anything about your topic. So any jargon or any terminology that you are accustomed to in your daily work might not be something that other people understand the same way. So you might want to consider that as well. In terms of presenting, I think one advice I always need to give to myself before going to a conference is don't forget to listen to others. It's always, we often tend to practice or rehearse our presentations in our heads before it is our turn and forget to listen actually to others. But it is really important because when you present, you need to reflect on what others were saying before you, and you might just get an idea on how to frame your presentation if you are engaging more with others as you go. And another advice I think is to enjoy this entire process and opportunities that gives. I think this is really important. Another advice I think is to be not just respectful of the time of others. So what happened to me is that previous presenters took a little bit longer to present their topics. So I was in between the last presenter and the lunch, and I didn't want to be the person who takes away from the lunch break. So I had to kind of shorten my presentation on the go. So this is another thing to keep in mind. If you suddenly don't have as much time as you thought you would have, what are some of the slides you can get rid of on the go? So maintain that level of flexibility as you prepare. And just going back to the proposal writing stage, both Anne and Kira emphasized how important it is to catch your, not just reviewers, but the audience, the other people participating with something that is interesting and relevant. And one useful way for me is to start with questions. So you might open up your proposal with a question and then explain how your presentation will answer that question or help guide discussion around that question. So that can be a catchaway rather than just saying this proposal will talk about blah, blah, blah. Just looking at my notes. Yeah, I think I covered most of the things I wanted to say, so I'm happy to take any questions after Brent adds to what we've been saying so far. Thank you.
Kira, thank you, Maya. Yeah, actually, as I was saying those words about the lightning talk and about them being a good way of dipping your toe in the water, I'm thinking actually I'm really terrible at lightning talks because I always have too much to say. So it is a skill. It's definitely a skill presenting a good lightning talk. Okay, thank you. Let's go on to Brent.
Kia ora, Anne. Kia ora, everybody. I'm Brent McIntyre. I'm the Kaitiaki Ki Te Kōrero, the Library Collections and Information Manager here at the Parliamentary Library. So I've been lucky enough to present a number of times at LIANZA, both by myself and with other people over the years, and it's an amazing and exhilarating experience every time. For 2023, it was a bit different. We presented a workshop on parliamentary papers navigating 170 years of published history. So that's within the 10 words, luckily enough. And this was the process we go through at the Parliamentary Library. Each time LIANZA comes up, we often will have a meeting of staff. So we talk to our colleagues about what topics we might be interested in. And the question we're asking ourselves is why now? What is it about this topic, this thing that's pertinent to this moment in time, and actually what's pertinent to 6 months from now, because that's when we're actually looking. So September's a wee way away, and things are going to change in your topic between now and then. So that's something really to be aware of. I try not to, writing the abstract, to tie myself down too closely to what I know, but it's what I think, so that you don't have to know all the answers right now, and leave yourself some room to be doing different stuff between now and then. And potentially your topic could change. I've had topics in the past that have changed, when particularly in 2021, when we were doing presentations during COVID times, and we were doing a presentation from Parliament that was really apt to the times and changes we were making out of our COVID response. We needed to make it so that the presentation was really different at the presentation time to what we'd suggested when we were writing the abstract. So the abstract should be your guide to what you're going to provide, and provide, as Maya and Kira and Anne have said, some of that meat, but leave yourself room to grow and think differently by the time you're doing the presentation. I'd say that I'd talk to everything everybody's said. Some of the other things I've thought of, this doesn't have to be a solo activity, and talk to people around you, your manager, your colleagues, and your community, people at home, about whether these are interesting ideas you're coming up with. I'd suggest coming up with more than one idea. What we'll usually do, I know we're a bigger team here at the Parliamentary Library, but we're able to, often think of, well, what's a lightning talk, what's a workshop, what's a paper that we could put forward, and we've usually put forward at least one or two from the wider team and built them together. And think about who you can be working with if you're lucky enough to be in a bigger team, who's interested in doing this with you. So I was lucky enough to, last time I wasn't able to make it to the conference itself, so my colleagues, Brent Willis, same name, different guy, Bessie Sutherland and Bridget Ray were able to do the presentation of the workshop at the conference itself. When it comes to writing the conference abstracts, that 150 words, for any of us who've written anything ever, it's the hardest thing to get it within a word limit. I'm just looking at the presentation conference words that I put forward in 2023. I put a link, and you can actually get the ones from 2023. I put a link in the chat if anyone wants to see all those ones. I use the word keen way too much. I think I used it twice or 3 times, but we're keen, our team are keen. So that enthusiasm, if that can come through in your presentation abstract, that can be great. All the things people have said, to be as succinct as possible, to start with what the problem is and what your suggestion of a solution is. It might not be a final solution, but it's a question about, here's how we're doing it, great. I'd really encourage, somebody was talking in the chat about, do you need all the answers right now, or can you talk about work in progress? I think we often talk after we know the answer, but just as we know from reading academic literature, often that can be way after the fact. And there's something really interesting, and I've never been one of the proposal people, but if I was looking at it, looking at people's mistakes and people's work in progress is really interesting. And there's some amazing stuff that we can all learn from, not just what we've done good, but what we've done bad and what we've learned from that. That the things we learn from our mistakes can be really amazing. I'd suggest, and I've seen everybody does this in the presentation abstracts, is using conjunctions. So if you're aiming for 150 words, put in it is down to its, and we are, change it to where. So that's like 2 words you've got right there. And my last thing is, we have talked about the theme and not necessarily keeping to the theme, but it's a really good way of bringing together your thinking and focusing. If there is a theme, don't use it as the be all and end all, as Anne said, but it's a really good way to bring together your thinking. And that's all from me. That's different to anyone else's stuff. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Thanks, Brent. Yeah, and that's a really good point, actually, about, getting together with some colleagues and brainstorming some ideas. I think that's a really good way forward. And again, it can help you clarify, what you think is important here and what other people would like to hear about. I see there are a couple of questions in the chat, and I think Brent answered the first one really well. So I know there are some other people. I know Megan's here, for example, from the program committee. I would say on the second one, we are looking for, new and original ideas. But if you, on the general topic that you presented before, if you have a new angle, that would be welcome, I think. So Megan, do you have anything to add there? She was here.
I am here. I think you've answered that really well, and also te taku to the other 3 presenters for sharing your experience as well. So I think in terms of that, if you've already presented the specific paper at a previous conference, we would like it to look a little different. So something that may have happened since you've done that presentation. So it is newer content rather than just a repeating of a previous paper as well. So I think in the proposals it does say, is this a new idea? Is this an original idea? So it could be a building on of previous ideas as well. Back over to you, Anne. Yeah.
Thanks. Any other questions? Oh. No, this is going to be an in-person conference, Martin. So, yeah, we're not. It's not going to be a hybrid or a virtual. It is an in-person conference this year.
Can I ask a question, Anne?
Sure.
When we say paper, do we mean a written paper? Because that's often what people will go to conferences and see as a big, long 1,500-word essay. Doesn't necessarily have to be that at all, does it?
No, absolutely not. There is no requirement to provide a paper, so you don't have to go away and write, as Brent was saying, thousands of words, and then submit that. It is a presentation we're looking for. Yes, there's a written proposal step, but yeah, paper, conference paper. It's a convention that we use, but it's not actually a paper. Yeah.
Martin has his hand up to continue his question, I think. Martin, do you want to say something?
Kia ora. Apologies, Anne. I was probably fired that off too quickly because I'm a slow typist. I was more meaning the requirement to be a paid attendee I've got a couple of suggestions for a panel and a potential workshop, but the participants probably wouldn't. No, they definitely wouldn't use their PD money to attend the conference because they're non-library people. But their content would be really invaluable for LIANZA. Yeah, just throwing that out there.
Perhaps Megan might like to answer that, because it might be that you want to email the office and the program committee consider it. Megan?
You've taken the words exactly right out of my mouth, Angela. Martin, thank you very much for your question. I think that that's something that we would just need to take a little bit more discussion around. So I think, as Anne just said, if you wanted to email through to the LIANZA office, and then that can get passed through to the programs team, and we can just consider sort of some of the details in there as well. So Martin, if you're happy to do that, the details will either be at the end of this webinar, or it is on the LIANZA website as well. But thank you very much for raising the question. Yeah.
Lovely, thanks for that. Kia ora.
Back over to you, Anne. Yeah.
Yeah, there are a couple of other questions there. One is quite a technical one about the proposal website. I'm not sure about that. With the double-blind review process, yeah, I'm not sure about that. It's a bit.
Oh, I don't know.
No, I don't know.
Yeah,
Megan.
I might take that one. Kai, thank you very much for the question. Again, I might say that the suggestion for that would be to email the office directly, just so that we can be really clear about what the question is. I'm assuming it means that by the time that you're wanting to submit the proposal, you won't actually be physically able to do that, so someone was going to do on your behalf. So it might be around some timelines then. So Kai, if you're able to email us, that would be grand. And thank you, Angie. I think there's some fantastic email addresses that have just gone into the chat there as well. Just picking up on LJ's comment, yes, if you have more than one proposal, you're welcome to submit a different proposal for each of those ideas. Yeah. Okay, sorry, I've just got a couple of questions coming through thick and fast. Yeah, Anne? Yeah.
So there's one from Ginger there who's saying that if it's if we put in for one format, it might be suited to another. I'm not sure we've considered that, have we?
What we have considered is if somebody puts in a proposal and we're like, we actually think that might fit better in a different format, rather than putting in two separate proposals.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have an answer on the fly for that one. I would suggest.
No, I think that's what Ginger is asking, actually. So if we propose for one format, but we might accept it, it might be accepted as another format.
Okay, thank you. I've misunderstood the question. So yes, and you've interpreted that correctly. So to submit it, then there may be some feedback from the proposal reviewer process that intends for it, that it would suggest would be potentially better in a different format. Yeah.
And in fact, Zoe, further down, Zoe has given her experiences there. That's really helpful. Thanks, Zoe.
Fantastic. And clearly I can't read the chat fast enough. Apologies, folks. Yeah.
And Shuri, we're putting in a proposal. We'll have two of us presenting. Do we just present under one of our names? No, I think you can put in more than one presenter, can't you? Yeah.
Yes.
So you can put in more than one. What's the maximum number? I don't think we have a maximum number.
That's correct. We don't have a maximum number.
Maximum number is how much time you have, really, and energy, maybe. So it's because. Thank you, Eric. I think it's because if the proposal mentions a certain institution, for example, you may need to declare your conflict of interest there. So it's not just the name, but it's if you can kind of work out who it is, then it's probably and it's somebody close to you, then it's probably a good idea to declare that conflict of interest. Okay, we're just about out of time. So, but I'm sure, again, Anne just put in the the email for the conference and for LIANZA. So if you have any other questions, do send them in to the program committee or to LIANZA, and I'm sure that they will be forwarded and we can consider them. So thank you all for attending. Kia ora.
Thank you, everybody, and I'll just close with the karakia now. And I'd just like to thank, in particular, Anne, Kira, and Brent, and Maya for fantastic presentation. I found it incredibly informative, even though we're on to number 3 conference. So thank you. Anuhia, anuhia, anuhia ki te uru tapanui, ki wātia ki mama te nākau, te tinana, te wairua e te ara tangata, koiara e rongo, whakairia aki ki runga, kia tina, tina, huie, taikie. Thank you everyone for joining us today.